for opening and ceremony.
Say something there. Yat eh. Yat eh. Anybody say yat eh? Yeah, good. Just start the morning and start a communication together. And I'm gonna say prayer in Navajo. We all have our language because the issue that we're going to talk about is best described in our own language. As my brother said, English has its limitation, but that's okay. And we have a language that can do well and communicate about the land and the history and the thinking that goes with it and what it brings us every day. I think that's in that way we can easily see that the land, we don't not only use it or occupy it, as the Balagana would say. We talk to it every morning. We talk to it every morning. It gives us an agenda. We talk about what needs to be done with our personal life in connection with our people. So I think that's what we're doing. And the prayer will go not only communication among us as older folks, but more the communication we need to speak to our children, our grandchildren. And I think that we may think children are children, grandchildren are grandchildren. But one thing that you and I know is that they listen. They may not seem to do so, but they do. So I think we will include them in our conversation, the language that we speak. So I'm gonna say a prayer. Kodola hojono les digin the nathan seni. Kodoni nika docha. Dikhana ot ado na ot al. Le dikhe haki kapen dik apen a penegokwa that hinil ido achiyatel tia. A kodid kaya haki bandit idoles by yatel titoles. A ko benata hotil asligi qua bahul a. A kodi kaya haki chupin ye horlo. A ko di bakha horlonige bakha ne da ne khe. Bakha dan the adola inatel. A kodi kodo nasje. Quae de Khait o eti palakan anni le healing. Nek at an hin hizari as a medicine. Healing is medicine. And it has a larger, definition to the land. Medicine and land go together and we go with it. They're in us and we're in them. And quite the nether no clean quite any cut or jahish ja hit o eti ati ne hit o eti to the zeniki to nil idol hit o ni cut all was hit o e kodo be ka ne jatolis hit a bit na hot ego hit that see at ego di hat itati idolis. Should an hin he zet hollo, an hin he kea hollo, an hin he nan set the hollo, an hin he zet the hollo, a what o e be compa bande, a hair down, quan hahun sa, a hair lang hota hinil, had ibanada hotel as, hajo doles, hajo betel nitoles, what edoles, ha ate. He Jehoshana has slate dollars. Shut up at that, he Jehoshana has slate dollars. Shut up at that, he Jehoshana has slate dollars. Now, constant, he Jehoshana has slate dollars. Nihiman has san lane. She mado codon lane his je aqua not chin than neatly. What a dollars. Good day, Hoshana has slate, Hoshana has slate, Hoshana has slate, Hoshana has slate. Go ahead. Thank you.
Invite you all in attendance to speak gratitude in the chat for our first offering and opening. I speak gratitude. I open it up for our panel community.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to Robert for your prayer. It's nice to hear your Dene language once again. I spent a lot of time out there in New Mexico, so it brings back a lot of memories and good feelings, you know. So, Waliwani, thank you, Robert, you know, and welcome to each one of you. It's nice to meet you, Jasmyn. And Anahkwet, greetings. Greetings in our language is kwe kwe, or kwe. It's an Algonquin language of Wabanaki language groups here in the Northeast. I'm what they call a Penobscot, but in that language, we would really say Bunawubskeg. It describes our traditional homeland, which is where the rocks widen in the river. And that covers a vast area in the state of Maine area, and probably even in New England, because there's a lot of rivers and a lot of water, so, and a lot of rocks. So, you know, so I greet you that way, and it's really nice to see my friend and brother Seth as well, and you know, to offer some words. You know, I started out as the president of Nabizin. It started out as the Wabanaki Preservation Coalition, and you know, Cultural Coalition, and then we shortened it because it was a lot to say whenever we had to talk to somebody, you know, try to describe what we're doing here. So we shortened it to Nabizin, which in our language means medicine. And the medicine is in the land. It's also in the language, we know that. It's Nabizin itself, as a land base, there's two names that come to this area. It's adjacent to one of our reservation islands here, which is known as Old Lemon, and that derives from a word that, you know, it hasn't really been used for a long time, but it's Wolemanuk. It describes a place of red paint where we gathered that. Ceremonial use was primarily why they gathered red paint. And then they named this town Passadumkeag in the English way, but it's really Buzzadumkeag, and it means above the gravel bar. So this is how the language I realized that, you know, the language is really the description of the land we stand on, you know. Buzzadumkeag of being above the gravel bar. So we know that in that gravel bar, old fish weirs, that's where we used to fish. This island over here, Wolemanuk, or Old Lemon as we call it now, the place of gathering red paint, was once a community. It's an 800-acre island. And people lived there up until the 1930s. And then they were forced to move down south to get jobs and put their kids in school. You know, well, Wolemanuk is that paint, that red paint we used in ceremonies. So we know that this was, overall, it was a gathering place. One was for fishing, the other one was gathering red paint for ceremony. So encompassing all of that, people gathered here and they had ceremonies, they did things, you know, they traded, you know. It wasn't just what we call Penobscot, you know. There were also other Wabanaki tribes in this area, you know. The Passamaquoddy, you know, what they call the Maliseets, who were further north, but it's really Wolustoq, beautiful river. That's how they describe themselves. Passamaquoddy, that's the ones that they eat a lot of fish, basically. So they stayed on the coast. And then the Mi'kmaq, they stayed way up north, but all the language base is the same. They communicated. It was all one language at one time. And as I think is true for a lot of the other regions of Turtle Island, whether it be in Canada, United States, or Mexico, or where have you, and so the language is really about the land. It's the sounds of the land. It's the sounds that our ancestors used to describe certain places and the quality of that land, whether there was a lot of fish or certain kinds of trees or certain kinds of medicines. And Nabizin was really established on the base idea of 500 years of intergenerational trauma. And the question was brought to me once I became aware of what the trauma was doing in our lives today and how it was passed down generation to generation. It says, now that you know that, what are you going to do with that? So that's where Nabizin started. It was the answer to that question. And what it means is that 500 years of history has shown us that was genocide based on taking the culture out of us to assimilate us or to kill us off, period. And so all we need to do now is it sounds simple, it is simple, but it's not easy, because you have 500 years of this history which is embedded into our people now. And that's really what it comes down to, is to put the culture back into the next 7 generations. In the process, heal ourselves presently. And that's everything, and everything about whatever the culture is, from the language to the ceremonies, the traditions, to our agricultural foods, whether we and our wild foods, because those are the connections to the earth. It's like I've come to the realization that the American diet, as they call it, is really it's very disease ridden. It's like it makes you sick, and a lot of that really we have to go back to our original seeds, our original game, whether it be fish, what have you. Most of us hunted all of it. We gathered, we grew our own corn, our own tobacco, everything, And so our relationship to the earth is based on that through the language. So to me, it's just, like I said, it's a simple concept, but it's not easy, because this intergenerational trauma, we have picked up a lot of social problems. If you name it, we have it. And those are the symptoms of that trauma. Those are the symptoms. And so the root problem is that we're disconnected from who we originally are. Even the idea of like, they call us Penobscots over here, but that's the farthest thing from who we really describe ourselves. Bunawapskeg, how do they get Penobscot out of Bunawapskeg? And that's how we describe our traditional homeland, where we come from, as Wabanaki people. Wabanaki is from where the sun rises. There were a lot of tribes underneath from where the sun rises. So I had a lot of relatives. Even our Medewan people came from this region. The ones that carried the bundles, they were told to carry those bundles to where the water grows on, where the food grows on the water, wild rice. That's what we found out. And those people have been coming back here, kind of seeing who's left. You know, so now we have to prepare ourselves for when those bundles return. You know, to welcome those people back home. You know, and be ready to receive what's coming too at the same time. You know? So you're talking 1,000 years of time, and so you know that's what Nabizin is. You know, it's and this place that we have, you know, it's kind of interesting. It came up for sale. We were having ceremonies here, and it's 2 big houses, three houses, 5 buildings total. It was an equine therapy place, and it was paid for and developed at $3.5 million. And then, short story is that it was reappraised because the equine therapy didn't take off the way it should have, and then they had it reappraised. It got donated to Suffolk University in Boston. They had it reappraised at $970,000 and put it on the market at $770,000. We were having ceremonies here, and the vision of Nabizin came about as a result of ceremony. And we got the thought that we can own this place, and then we have the start of healing that intergenerational trauma for the next 7 generations. And we raised that $770,000 in 2 years' time and paid it all off by prayer, you know, and it connects to that 800-acre island, you know. And so that's where we started. That's how we started. And, you know, so now it's, yeah. So I'm gonna leave it at that, because I could keep
Thank
going
you.
on forever.
We're going to keep going, because you touched on things that we have to talk about today. And so we will come back to so many of the things that you named. I have jotted them down. I want to thank you for the welcoming that you both called in as both your mission and into our call today. I want to pass it to Anahkwet to do the same thing, please. Not only take space to provide offering and ceremony to the opening of our time together, but please also center and position yourself in not only your work, but your geographical location.
Yeah, Poso Waiwanan, thank you for that. I just wanted to thank my uncles here for opening that up. You know, in our culture, we, you know, not that I'm super young, but definitely younger than my uncles on this panel, so wanted to give them the opportunity to speak first. So I appreciate, you know, hearing the words that are spoken, especially our traditional language. Our languages, I should say, you know, those aren't foreign languages. They don't come from anywhere other than from here. And we must always remember that this language we are speaking right now isn't from here. It doesn't understand the relationship with the land or with the people. So it's always good to hear our own language. I'm going to introduce myself in our language, and I'll try to explain who I am in English so you can understand. Poso Anahkwet Kam Wapasha Nito Tam Kashitna Nitsky Wakian Mawani Natanawe Maknak Waiwana Nitskis Piak Eos Mawani Mamache Tawak Masewanani Waiwanan. So I was kind of taught, you know, by our elders that we introduce ourselves in that our language, and you know, we speak and recognize our clans as well, to let all of them, my clan brothers and sisters, know that I'm around here and that talking here. So appreciate the opening invocation. It's funny is because I think I was up in Montreal maybe I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I was at a conference there, and it was way out nowhere, and it was cold, and there was 2 Navajo there. And I thought, how in the heck did you guys get up here? You know, like seems like everywhere I go, there's always 1 or 2 Navajo somewhere. So I don't know if they know something I don't know or not, but um, definitely good to see them around. The other thing is my English name is Anahkwet. My real That's my real name. Excuse me. My English name is Guy Reiter. I live here on the Menominee Indian Reservation. I run a nonprofit here on our res. It's an 80-acre farm that we got like 3 years ago or so. And we really do a lot of different initiatives. One obviously is living where we live is they say we're in a food desert, although our reservation, the Menominee Nation, is worldly known for our forest management and the way in which we interact with our forest. Um, that comes from just the many years of us being woodland people, Algonquin people, and we're cutting in a way that is from who we are as a people. So our forest can actually be seen from space. A lot of people say that our forest looks like what Wisconsin looked like when the Europeans came over here. So we're pretty proud of our forest here. You know, it's probably 90% woodlands. So we got about 2,000 people live on the reservation. You know, at Minneconnekim, which roughly translates to, I guess the best way to say it is there's a group of, it's describing like a group of people putting together a very thoughtful, very healthy village. Like we're building that. That's what it's describing in that name, Minneconnekim. I was talking earlier about this language, this pitiful language, English. It can't even describe very basic things in our language. So sometimes it's hard to translate between the two. But I wanted to just share with you guys some of the initiatives at Minneconnekim that we're working on. One, of course, because we're on a 80-acre farm, is food sovereignty, you know, but we're not trying to, I heard Tim call me a farmer, but I would never call myself that. Never call myself that. I think at one point we were like quack grass farmers, if anything. But right now we're growing a bunch of food and we're growing hemp as well for our food sovereignty initiative. But we also have a energy sovereignty initiative. Our farm right now is ran on all solar panels. We're looking to branch out into the community to help our relatives on the land here on our reservation to be able to have green energy. The other thing that we do is we do a lot of environmental justice work. I think that's just kind of, all this stuff is interconnected, but I'm just singling it out. Our environmental justice work, we've been fighting a sulfide mine they're trying to put in on our home river, the Menominee River. That the Menominee River separates Upper Michigan with Wisconsin. It's where our creation story says we began as a people. So that we've been fighting that for about going on 10 years. Just about, we got them on the ropes right now. So hopefully we'll be able to stop that here soon. Culture and language revitalization is always something that's interwoven through everything we do as well. We have a pretty awesome youth group that's been doing lots of things in the community. We're just like everyone else, kind of getting back to somewhat of a normal schedule with coronavirus and things. Well, we got really 2 big projects as well as that we're focused on, and one is MMIW work. We help to create the Wisconsin State Task Force, MMIW Task Force, that was birthed out of our organization. We've been helping and reaching out to other orgs and other people to establish ones in different states that don't have them. And the other thing too is we're building tiny homes. So we have 3 tiny homes on our land right now. to help our community with transition homes, but also just sometimes I wouldn't say that like it's a homeless problem. It's more like a houseless problem sometimes on a reservation, but there is definitely a lack of homes. So there's always people in and out of those. Coronavirus, there wasn't anybody in any of those, but now we have a tiny home resident. So that's kind of just a little snapshot of who we are. You could look at us more at www.menomineerebuilders.org. You can see all the things that we're doing, and I'm happy to be here. Appreciate the time and space.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I will quickly position myself and then really get this conversation started. So my name is Jasmyn Elise Story. I use they, them pronouns. I am a steward of 15 acres of land in the Creek, Muskogee area of the Black Belt region in the Southeast. That describes very much our soil and the beautiful, beautiful possibilities that lay on our land. I am from in my body, I am a detethered child of the two original sins of this land. And my maternal line being from the Stockbridge Nation, my maternal line being of descendants of the Carlisle Indian School, contributing to the detetheredness from community that lives in my body today. In my paternal line, am detethered from West Africa and the lands that they now call Nigeria and Benin, and am detethered from the knowledge of that space that made those individuals of particular interest to those looking to capture knowledge as well as labor with enslavement. And with those two detethered realities, I have spent the last decade of my life finding ways to retether to myself, retether to a inherited mandate to not only resist, but be resilient. And so that is who I am. And I wear many hats in trying to retether to the community that I'm a part of now as a new farmer, so very, very, very new, as well as a doula and an individual who has the honor of assisting births, which these two things end up being very tied together as I learn more about both of them and how I can contribute to space. And so with that, I would like to open our conversation to really continue where our wonderful, wonderful panel really left us off, which is what is the state of things? And so I am going to open up this section of our conversation. I'm going to call it soil. As it has been beautifully named multiple times today already, soil is the first in everything. It is our connector. It is where we both return to and where we come from. And so with that, I really like to think about returning to healing as one step in soil maintenance. And so when thinking about the land, not just in its physical form, but everything it represents, everything that is held, where do you see need? So when we think about the land, where do you see need? So I'm going to pass it to Tim. Tim, where do you see need when you think about the land? And you gave us such a beautiful illustration of the land that surrounds you. So where do you see need?
I see a lot of it in really in education, especially of the youth, whether no matter what race they come from. And I think that a lot of it is to re-educate in terms of who the original people are of the area in which you live. You know, because a lot of people think that natives are no longer in existence in the state of Maine. You know, and I find that to be true in a lot of other states. You know, they think that we're somewhere in the history line and we no longer exist. We've been extinct, so to speak. You know, and that education, I believe, is to really include what really happened in this land. You know, overall, Turtle Island or Canada or what have you. You know, such as the example of Kamloops in Canada, which we're all recently aware of, with the boarding schools. You know, there's, you know, and we actually here, you know, we offered one of our, well, our executive director came up with the thought to have a sacred fire for a certain day for them, and to kind of pray about them, you know, and offer a space where people could come and put tobacco down for them to the fire, you know, for these children. And we had a gentleman from another Wabanaki gentleman who had been in one of the boarding schools in Nova Scotia, a place called Shubenacadie. He wanted to put it in a different light. And what he did was, he says, I would like to honor those children. And he came up with a story of a child that he was befriending as a member, you know, as a part of that boarding school. He was 3 years old. His name was Jonathan. And that was all he knew of him, that was his first name. He was of Mi'kmaq, and he was the gentleman we're talking of. It was a Passamaquoddy gentleman, but they could converse in the language, you know. And he said, basically, to look at them as warriors, to look at the courage that they were bestowed with to endure what they had to endure, to look at them as the courage, and you know, yes, it's a tragedy, but to think of how they carried themselves through that, however long they may have survived or not survived, you know, and you know, and that kind of education, at that point when I heard that, I was looking at one end of Turtle Island to the other end of Turtle Island, and I became suddenly aware that there's a lot of space in between those two areas. And what happened? You know, what happened in between that space? So now we're looking at the education of that. You know, we're going to be seeing all of these different communities come up with that in terms of what happened with all the other boarding schools, you know. And so that's going to be an education for a lot of us, you know. And so the reality of what happened, you know, in this country, the real history, you know, and not only that, but the positive side of who we are as a people, as nations, as sovereign people of this land, you know, how we took care of our communities, how we took care of our elders, our children, all of those things, our languages, you know, the diversity of who we are as the native people of this land. You know, that's where it all begins, is in the education, because then you stop the prejudice, you know, the lack of knowing who we really are, that we're really not a people that are in the history lines and we don't exist anymore. We really do exist. And we have the capability of overcoming that, you know. And I think that that's where it really needs to go, you know, like we have a law in the state of Maine that it really is a law that says they have to teach the real truth of what happened to the Wabanaki people in the state of Maine. You know? And it goes all the way to issues of mascots, you name it, it's all there. You know? And so, you know, And there's still a lot of people that say, I never realized that there were Native Americans in the state of Maine. You know? And, you know, so that education, I think, is really, really important for the young people of non-native communities to be aware of, you know. And that's where it starts, because then you kind of put the brakes on the genocide, you know, the attitudes that come with it. You know, that's like, even in the idea of Nabizin, we decided that, you know, because our reservation, 17 miles down the road, it's on an island and there's a bridge to it. And one time there was no bridge and people had to cross on a sawdust bridge to go to school. They lost some children in there, you know, in that river. But there's always, even after the bridge was built, there's always an us and them attitude. You know? And it shows up in the newspaper or on TV announcements and what have you, you know? And that has to be eliminated. Somehow you have to make that open door so that people understand that not only is the trauma on this side, but it's also with the other side, you know, because the perpetrators created it that way. So how you're going to undo that? That's where the education comes in, you know, for the younger people of today. So anyway, that's what I think. You know, it's education. Honestly.
I'm hearing education and I'm hearing a full telling of what happened. I'm hearing an education that involves a real truth telling and also an exploration of truths that have yet to be fully uncovered. I'm hearing truth telling and education for the next generation to pause this cycle of genocide. Thank you so much. And I want to open it up to Shiwa to pull yourself into the space. Position yourself, please, as well, and answer the same exact question in relation to the land. Where do you see the need? Where do you see a need?
Thank you, Jasmyn. I think we need to be living on the land and to really connect to the spirit of this land, to the ancestors. And, you know, as when we spend the time more on the earth, I think we receive these teachings. You know, the nature, you know, gives us like, hey, look at me, use me, you know, I'm here for you, you know, be able to connect to them and be able to listen to them and to learn from them, you know, and creating more space where people could be connecting and be able to live and in a harmonious way. I think that's really important. And then, you know, we all know when we spend more time in gardens, you know, under the sun, you know, there's a healing that happens just naturally. And I think it's important that we connect to that, you know, invite more people to do that, you know, and grow our own food and be able to be sovereign. What does that mean? You know, really practice that. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of background noise here. You know, there's a lot of things going on here. Yeah, we're trying our best. Yeah, you know, I'm not from, I wasn't born this continent, and my parents came, you know, when I was 14. You know, growing up in US, it was very interesting, you know, and I realized in high school or college, you know, I didn't really had any of knowledge about Native people in this land. You know, it wasn't until I went to ceremonies, teepee ceremonies, I went to Sundance when one of the chief invited me to come to South Dakota. And then I saw what people are put it up against. It was just like kind of a little bit of like cover, and then the more I get closer, there's more of these problems that, the US government has put them through, all this history that we are learning about, how that has affected people so many levels, and it was pretty profounding, even with the Lakota people, that what they had went through, still they invite all the people of all colors to come together and dance and pray together. Why? They say, because it's a prophecy. One day, all 4 colors of people need to come together, because we all are going to need to come together, make it together as a one. And so despite what happened, we make relations and we call each other brothers and sisters, and we pray together, we dance together, and we need to practice now, and so that hearing that and being in that place like that, really opened up, wow, what this whole US, the America, so-called, the education has really put a big important truth from all of us, and I felt like I was foolish, and it's like, wow, I feel like I'm living in this kind of fake world, that it's not real, and so understanding from that and getting to know the people more, it takes time, as how these trees and how these plants need time to grow. How can we change what had happened to something positive, that initiation of turning point, and it takes a lot of courage, a lot of patience, a lot of prayers, and a lot of love and compassion for each other, and a lot of work, and I'm just really grateful that we have this chance, to do that, start something that maybe it might not finish in our this generation, but something for next generation, how they can be in better place, and anyway, so that's I feel like that's what we're doing, and this weekend, we started as a solstice on Monday. We had a sunrise ceremony and honoring the summer, and we started a timber framing workshop. This is our first workshop that we're kind of doing, last 2 years, since the COVID, and really it's been pretty profounding, and we were really looking forward to this workshop, to really learn how to build home from start, and creating a space, a learning opportunity for young people who wants to start, and creating a team so we can start building homes for each other, and then I hope these youth and people who gain the knowledge and go back, and share more, it becomes a seed, and something that the house does. It's not something the government has built it for you or given you, but something that we create, from this earth and from this land, that will be really good for us. And it will use passive solar. It will be using less energy and creating more healthier environment for our youth and then for all of us. I think if we can take care of ourselves with housing, on the land, growing our food, you know, and hopefully we can create a, you know, we can clothe ourselves too, you know, and be really sovereign in that way. Not, I think that would be something really powerful. And in every process of that, you know, learning the language, learning the songs, learning the prayers, and reconnecting to the ancestors and the roots. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really heard living on the land, returning to the land in harmony as a way of to both receive knowledge and healing, a call for a practice of true sovereignty as well as a practice in being in good relation with each other. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass the same question. Anahkwet, when you look at the land, in relation to the land, what is it that you see? What is needed?
Yeah, I really would definitely second both Tim and Shiwa's words. I definitely understand exactly what they're saying and agree. You know, I think, you know, what we kind of noticed in our community at a time is we were starting to like believe in somebody else's story of who they thought we were. And you know, we looked around in our community and all the signage that we seen, you know, was somebody else's story about us. And we recognized right away that like our answers or our solutions are not going to come from a don't or from a negative. We started to recognize that our people, what my uncle here just talked about, the boarding school is really just one thing that our people have been through, and it was unbelievably difficult in the traumas and the hardships that it caused. But that was just one thing, you know, that we went through as a people. And we recognize and understand that we went through those things, but we're still here. I'm still here, and we're still speaking our language. We're still going to our ceremony, and we wondered like, how is that not the narrative? How are we as an indigenous people not standing on that incredible strength to be able to go through those things and still be here? So we wanted to call that out in our community, and we wanted to make sure that, like, listen, you know, I don't care what you think about us, you know, it doesn't even matter, because you know nothing. You never took the time to try to learn who we were as a people. But we wanted to talk to our community and remind them that we got our language and our culture from the Creator, and we got it out of love for us. And that's the way we should give it. You know, all these beautiful spirits and places that we have here were given to us to help us through this they call life, you know, for us. And you know, that when you think of the land, you know, it's such a, I don't know, Western mind frame to even use that word. We don't use that word. You know, we call her what her name is, Kamasa Masanoak, and Koko Maso Kamakana, and she is our mother. She has a story. She has been holding us up for time immemorial. We know when she was formed and how she was formed. It's, you know, so it's those types of things that, you know, it's definitely education, and it's also reminding our own people of who we are as a people, and that we can't be believing what stories they're telling about us. That you know, when you see things in the general narrative about Indigenous people, you know, Like they don't know nothing about us, and that's our strength too, that they don't know nothing about us. Because in our environmental fights that we've had, we've used our own cultural stories as a gateway to fight back against these mining companies, our mining company. You know, the other thing that really sticks out to me is something that we realized and recognized as well, is that, you know, if the land is sick, so are the people. And you know, this dominant way about the way this Western mindset like wants to dominate the earth. You know, it's almost it's a direct correlation to the way that they try to dominate women too. And you know, we never were like that. We never thought of that way. And sometimes it seems to me that people draw their only definition of who we are as a people from a very small sliver of time, of our vast time on this earth, and where we've been for thousands and thousands of years. You only view us through that little bit of sliver of time, like as if our history only began in 1492. But we go much back, much further, where we were none of these things that they think we are now. You know, we wanted to make sure that that's where we come from. That's the path forward is through our culture and our language and our understanding of who we are as a people. And understanding that this place here where we're growing food is a relationship. We're a part of a team, and it's not about us dominating it or forcing it to do something that it doesn't want to do. And I hear my sister here talk about that beautiful sunrise ceremony. You know, we've done those here. That was the very first thing we did when we got this place. And we feasted this land and we asked it, you know, how do we work with it? What can we do? This particular location of what we have, Menominee has right now, was a prior farm. So there were chemicals and things that were used on it. We don't want to do that. You know, we want to be a part of this land, and we want to give back. Teach our young people that, you know, there's no white man going to come save us, but we have to look at each other, and we have to recognize our strengths with each other, that we stand shoulder to shoulder and we reclaim our identity and we reclaim our future. And that I remember hearing Russell Means talk a while back, and it always stuck in my brain that he said, if you want to be sovereign, you need to act sovereign. And that's something I think is so important. And that education part is so very much needed. And you know, I think for the first time in a long time, it seems like young people are waking up, and we're having conversations that I never would have ever thought we would have had. Even the land acknowledgements in the beginning, recognizing the traumas and recognizing the way that this land was taken. You know, so I think if we continue down this path and we do it with compassion and we do it in a good heart, in a good mind, that we all can benefit from it, including the land and all these things around here. And the other thing is, you know, our people have lived here for thousands of years. We know what the hell we're talking about. So sometimes it's just being quiet and listening. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What I have pulled, it's sitting heavy with me, is this idea of not listening about the story of the house from the burglar, but instead those who lived in it. To not only understand that knowledge has been here, but it lives and it is living. a rejection of the dominance in the dominant culture, the need and desire, almost pathology to dominate, that came over here from the West and lingers. The need for self-reliance and sovereignty, for that to be both practice and theory and heart and head. I thank you so much for that share. If I were to ask myself this same question, I really find in Alabama, I think I've lived a lot of places. It has been my honor to be a part of many different communities and learn and practice healing rituals in many places. And one thing that I found interesting in places all over the globe was how much healing work often happens at the places that feel where the land has been most scarred. And seeing that all over the world. And so for me, though I have a connection to Alabama that is deep, there has been an incarcerated member of my family on my maternal side all the way back to enslavement. There has not been a generation of fully free people in my family on my paternal side since their kidnapping from West Africa. And on top of that, this is where some of the most unbelievably atrocious violence and genocide happens and is not talked about at all in schools in this space. I received an education from this space, so I know for certain that it is not and was not taught in school. And so when I think about where I wanted to plant myself as a servant to land, it became very clear to me that this land was a place that I could honor as some of the most violently scarred land that I have a connection to. That I have a personal connection to, because I have lived a very nomadic life. But the need that I saw was not necessarily a space for any one group, but for all groups actively reconnecting with their knowledge base and trying to organize it and share in a really practical sense. Having space is still something that people in Alabama desperately fight for. Space to organize, space to gather. There are laws still on the books that ban tribes in Alabama from gathering with more than 5 people. I mean, that's something you could do outside of a gas station, but the laws still sit on the books. So in both a practical, legal, and a metaphorical sense, having space just to gather is what I really wanted to create, but having space to gather that does all the things that I know of this land once did and is loved on in a way that I know this land was once loved on. And see it a deep honor to be a steward of this land's, this chapter of this land's history. And so that is where I see myself. I have one, I think, just for the sake of time, because I want to make sure I open it to the attendees to share your questions. And please go ahead and feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I will be grabbing them. But to our panelists, I want to jump to really, I'm going to squish 2 questions together. I would like to know what you have given and what you've received on this journey that you have taken. And then I also would love to hear a desire that you have for the next generation informed by that journey. So the question is, what have you given and what have you received on this journey with your, on your journey? And then just a word to the next generation, informed by your journey. What do you want them to know? What do you want them to leave with? I believe that we have young people on this webinar today, so I hope that they are ready to receive what you have to share. And so I will pass it first to Tim and Shiwa, and then to Anahkwet.
Well, I guess in terms of what I've given, I feel like I've given inspiration, you know, not so much that I'm a master of it, but I personally like inspiring somebody, people, I like to know what they're capable of doing and what they're doing, encourage them to really embrace what it is they love to do, and whatever their gifts are, to really expound on that, to really move forward with it, and to know that once they make up their mind to do something, that they can really do it, that they can really embrace it, that it's their gift from the Creator that makes it possible. In that sense, and that's to me is how like Nabizan really came to be, because I looked at the people around me and saw that they all had certain things that they were capable of doing, and so it's like kind of expound on all of that to really make this place become what it is today, because it really belongs to the people, it's not me, it's really all those gifts are out there, everybody has something to give, it's like and I think I learned that from ceremonies, they say, we don't know who's coming, but we know people are coming, and they're going to bring something, they might bring a song, they might bring a few words that would help somebody in that circle, they might bring some food, they might bring some kind of medicine or tobacco or what have you, but they're going to bring something. Each one is going to bring something. Whoever comes is supposed to be there. And so that to me, I received an awareness that even if it's ceremony or if it's not ceremony or whatever is happening, people will come and they're going to bring something. So it opened up a whole nother avenue, of awareness, that I didn't know what was coming and who was coming, but that's fine, It's like something good is coming with these people, whoever they are and wherever they're coming from and whatever they're bringing, something good is coming. And so, to me, I received something from that, I received a consciousness of, that groups of people, they make things happen. If they're endowed with a gift, then and all those gifts come together, then something's going to happen. Something's going to change. Something's going to evolve. And that to me is what I receive. Is just the consciousness of that alone is really it's exciting. It's like even this timber frame workshop we're working on. It's like everybody brought something, their energy, whatever it is, and we're going to build a lodge that we're going to use to further educate our children, ceremonial lodge. Somehow it'll become a school in a sense, It's like, we took, just as an example, we went over to this place over here on the island. There was an old schoolhouse there. It was small and it had burned down, but we took some stones from the old foundation And we used it on this lodge that we're building now, you know, and they're on the eastern front of that lodge, you know. So it's a furthering of the education of our future generations, you know. It's like we picked up that foundation and we rebuilt it, you know. And so we don't know who's going to come through that door, you know? We just know that somebody's coming, you know, and they're going to bring some things, you know, they're going to bring something, you know, and that whatever is brought, it's going to help us. It's going to help our future generations. You know? So to me, that's a real inspiring thought to have that, you know, just the gift of it, you know. I think of it as, you know, it's a gift to me, you know, myself, you know, just that I have the opportunity to be a part of that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
When Tim, you know, had this idea that, you know, we can steward this land, you know, and there was a moment, you know, somebody had to put this down payment and get going. And I remember a friend asking me, you know, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, yes, I am. It's just like, if I don't try it, if we don't try it, I knew we're going to live in regret, you know, and we had a chance that we could do something, and I should have took that chance and went for it. And maybe that was something that, you know, maybe I think we had this, we're really blessed that we have the ceremony and this medicine in our lives, and we have some things that we can pray about and have a trust, the faith, you know, that, and maybe that's what, it's not really, I don't really feel like it's I have given. It's like maybe the medicine wanted to make it this way, you know, and they're just utilizing us, you know, and so we can be their legs and arms, and, you know, and they're connecting through our hearts to, you know, do the work, you know. So, and then, so I guess it's just that the work, the leg work that we did, you know, maybe that was the giving, but then we have been given, you know, so it's just we're in continuous circle, you know, and by doing it, you know, following, you know, our hearts and spirits, and, you know, just doing what the medicine, this prayer wants us to do, you know, as it's things are unfolding in front of us, and then just kind of trusting it and having faith in it, and then moving slowly, one step at a time, moving forward. I think it has given us a lot more again, you know, through the people, through all these blessings that has unfolded in front of our eyes, you know, and really brought an amazing opportunity, you know, work with amazing people who wants to come and share their knowledge, their energy, and their spirit, and, you know, and I just, yeah, it just feel really feel blessed, and I'm receiving, you know, through this process, it's strengthening us, you know, and that knowing that we can do this, and when we come together, we can do this, you know. these lodges, I think just even the structures, it teaches us, when you're one, you're kind of limited what you can do. But then when you come together, it's sports, you can create something really beautiful. So I just feel really blessed, that there are many amazing elders, who has shown through their actions, shown through their prayers and words and wisdom they share, through the stories they share, has opened up, where we are at. And hopefully, these stories and will continue move forward to the next generations. That the youth, you are loved and you're strong, and just move forward in a good way.
Thank
And
you.
I'm really amazed at what youth are doing these days, and they are rising, and I feel like we're trying to kind of follow their leads at this time. So I am really, really grateful, that they stand up, and somehow the ancestors are, speaking through them. And so, I'm just really grateful that we can support them, and hopefully we can do more and for them. And just want to say thank you. Wuliwani, Pitch Wuliwan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you both. Anahkwet, the same question. What have you given in this process, and what have you received in your journey? And what is your message to the generations to come?
I think it's pretty simple for me. I've given everything, and I've gained everything. I have 3 young kids here at home that I think of quite often, and really inspire me to give my all, and to lead with my heart. But I often remind them, to stay in the moment. This time right here together is so precious. And a lot of times living in this dominant society's world, it makes you wonder about tomorrow, or it makes you worried about what happened yesterday. And this present moment is hard to stay in when you're living in this sort of world, so I always try to make sure that they understand that right now, wherever we are, we are on the earth, and we want to feel her underneath us. We want to feel this beautiful breeze when we're outside, or feel that fresh air, and I always try to get them, to put themselves in creation. You are a part of this beautiful circle here, whether you know it or not. And when you don't speak another language, sometimes it's hard for you to understand, because you only see through that language. And English language has a whole lot of baggage with it. And it really is a fear-based language. And it sees problems and develops whole things around those problems. And our languages aren't like that. Our languages are complete opposite. And they're about connection, they're about love. And you know, the part I always try to get my kids and the kids that we work with is to just to remember where we come from. We don't need to panic. Yeah, the whole world panicked in this coronavirus, but we've been there before. We know what to do. We have to rely on one another. We have to stand together and remember our teachings, remember our language, and always, most importantly, to slow down. Slow down. Be thoughtful, and to lead with our heart. And I know that this language at times can isolate you or make you feel like you're isolated. But all you have to do is go outside and see this whole family. Maybe you don't understand their language. Maybe you don't understand how to communicate, but I'm telling you, if you go outside, close your eyes, and listen to the earth. She's always talking to us. She's always trying to teach us. She is our first teacher. And you know, that is so important, I think, for us you know, to remember to slow down and to stay in this moment. It's so important. And don't worry about so much about what the earth is going to do or the world is going to do. And we need to think global and act local, you know, and that if we do good things, do things in a good way, it'll work out, you know. In our cultures, the creator and spirits have always sent things here to help us. And we must just remember to see them. We can't be so focused on the doors that close and we can't see the ones that open. And I just want to say I appreciate my time here with all of you folks here, and I'm grateful to be a part of this. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. To contribute to the question, what I've given was really just obedience, I think, is the only thing I've given, is being obedient to what I was feeling spirit to tell me exactly to do. What I've received, probably the biggest thing I've received, is an understanding of balance, which I think I think conceptually, I love the importance of the naming of the constrictions of English. Because my understanding of balance is a Webster Dictionary understanding of balance. It was not until I returned and was living full time on this land that I really understood balance, that I really understood tending to, that I really understood how I could turn something and interrupt something and throw it completely off. Right now, I'm dealing with a frog infestation that is my own doing. I created this. There's no one to blame but me right now for the influx of frogs, which came with an influx of snakes. So this understanding of my own impact and how I am to be in space is a big thing that I've received. And then to the next generations, as someone who I open this my centering of who I am and positioning myself and calling myself a child of the tethered. And I think that this identity that I carry but not wear every single day really serves as a reminder to how I once went to my elders, which was in a gimme, gimme, gimme kind of energy. Once I decided I wanted to no longer be detethered, once I decided I wanted to come home, once I decided I wanted to learn, once I decided I wanted language that my tongue has felt but never spoken, once I wanted to reconnect with family members that have been removed from our space for 50 years, I went in asking, demanding, with all of my Western built movement, going to these spaces and asking, teach me. And so my biggest learning over the past 10 years and the beautiful relationships I've built and the elders that have come into my space, the aunts, the uncles, the grandmothers that are in my world, is you will find everything you are looking for in service. You will find everything you are looking for in service. If you are on this call right now and you are feeling detethered from whatever that is, seek service. It wasn't until I didn't receive everything I was asking for until I decided to give of myself. Until I started to ask a different question like, how can I help? What do you need? How can I serve you today? Which shifted the relationship building with everyone around me. So my lasting thought to all generations to come is everything you're seeking to receive, you can find in service. And so with that, we have one question, and I'm going to see if, Brett, if you would like to share your question. I'm not sure if I can, oh, here we go. Let's see. Looks like the question is, there's so much to grieve and also so much joy in coming together, connecting with each other, as you've said. How do we keep opening to the grief, to deep pain that stretches back generations while not getting lost in it and continuing to answer and continue to cultivate joyful ways of being together?
Or are you just asking anybody?
Yeah, I think I'm going to just open up to everybody. Yes, the question is, how do we not get lost in the grief? How do we cultivate joy together?
Well, I know it's very easy to commiserate with other folks and get into that sort of deficit thinking about what once was and all the things that went wrong. But you know, it's kind of just what I said a little bit before. It's that, you know, this staying in this moment, you know, recognizing that we are adding to this long arc of a story of our people. And we're not just looking back there and saying, well, let's live in a wigwam, you know, or let's live in a teepee or whatever. It's like, how do we bring those ideas here forward? And how do we create that in the space we're in today, to keep those understandings alive? And, you know, I very much at times feel connected to our ancestors and get overwhelmed by grief or sadness. And at those times, you know, I do what my body tells me to do. And Creator gave us tears for a reason. And we should never be ashamed of those. And let that water flow. And you know, I think it's one of the things that I remember one of our grandmothers taught me one time. She said to always be like water. And she said that if water is stagnant, it grows bacteria in it and it gets dirty. She said you gotta always flow, so be like water. And I didn't quite understand the complexity of it when I heard it, but it helped me. But as I've grown older, I've understood exactly what she means, and it's a constant thing to see in my life, that in my stagnant, in my spirituality, in my physicalness, my mental, you know, and my well-being, emotional, you know, am I stagnant in those areas, or am I moving like water? And I know that I've always heard that, you know, you can't go into a stormy situation being stormy, and that we have to find a way to take the time to figure out the things within us, so we can help another. We can't continue to be the people who need saving, and that's the way I kind of think about things. And I definitely am amazed that I'm breathing and I'm here right now, at this time, wherever you are. And it's so important to stay in that moment, in my opinion. Yeah.
Thank you. I will quickly share, for me, it is a balance of kind of like constrictions and release, constrictions and release. And with these bouts of deep grief that feel like a constriction, there's real relief. And that's what nature gives us, always following a contraction is relief, and this release. And so for me, that is something I hold so I can experience fully that grief in my body, experience it as I move, but also know that in those periods of release, that's where I can build the things that I will reflect on in the next period of constriction. Where I can look on and look at all of the beauty that I've given birth to in many ways across my space in my community, on the land, but also just in my relationships with people, all of the things that we're constantly sowing and seeing come to reap all of the time. Those are the things that I lean on, and look to when I'm in that place, but I don't resist that contraction. I experience it fully because there will always be release. And so I will pass it to Tim and Shiwa to, if you have anything on that question of joy and grief.
I I think it's in the action, and I think you were talking about Jasmyn, give, ask what you can help, and you know um when time is ready, ask that question, and see how you can put your action, move our bodies, and be connected, to the land and with the people. And you know I just found it like, I find it last year, how much joy that is to plant trees, and how much of joy of, making, touching the earth and Mother Earth, and, you know, putting the seed of trees and, these beings, on the earth, and thinking about, about future generations, that how much of joy they're going to receive. That really brings a lot of joy in my heart. And when we're doing this, all the people, all the volunteers who came, and we always put a little bit of tobacco down before we touched the Mother Earth, and put this prayers down for them. And just that whole process, how much of healing that was in our hearts, and how much of joy that we have received, and we felt, and that made us want to sing and want to dance, and in creating these actions, as we were pounding, cutting this lumber together, creating this, home together. It's a lot of joy. It's a lot of hard work, but then it really for me, it really brings a lot of joy in my heart, and you know, so yeah.
Yeah.
Just say.
Yeah. I think that the real awareness is, like grief, I equate it to pain, whether it be physical, mental, spiritual pain, in a sense. It's like, it's a signal. One of the most, I think the most obvious of the signal is that you're still alive.
Mhm.
It's like, it's telling you something. And I think that the whole idea of like the COVID, when it came about, it was like, okay, we got to do something. We can't do things the way we used to do them. So what can we do now? So Anahkwet was saying, we're in the moment, so we have to really take a look. And that was, that's where the idea of food came in. To grow food. We're looking at, masses of people going to grocery stores in the cities and grabbing boxes of toilet paper. But and food, and food was primary. It's like, so we need to grow food. So we started doing that. We just did it. We didn't even let the board know. We just did it. And then the trees came. The opportunity for the trees came. We just did it. We went ahead and followed that. And all of the fear and the isolation of COVID just kind of went by the wayside. It kind of inspired courage, to keep moving, don't stop, and just really, really move forward. Do something. You may not be able to go far geographically, but what can you do right here, right now? And that's what, and really from that, it was really, I realized we were listening to the earth. We were listening to the environment around us. It was talking to us, and it was telling us, get busy, get some food together, start working on that now, because you may not be able to depend upon these grocery stores, Walmart or whoever, even the idea of natural building, it's like, the price of wood right now is skyrocketing, and so we're harvesting trees and we're building with that. It's like, we've been doing it for thousands of years. Why do we have to go to Home Depot? It's the sitting still and watching is like, we've been building things for thousands of years. We have all the elements right at our feet. It's just kind of like, we're out here building this timber frame. My body is sore. I'm feeling physical pain. But it's telling me I haven't moved very much. And I'm alive. I'm breathing air. I'm drinking water because it's hot. I'm dehydrating, so I better drink more. It's kind of, it's just awareness. The spirit, the mind, the body, it's all one thing. It's not disconnected. To me, yes, we've been educated in boxes. We start out in a little classroom full of children, and all of our subject matters in that one little box. And then we go to high school, and then all our subject matters are all in separate boxes. Then we go to college, we get the same thing. And then we think that everything is not connected. But when we look at our culture, which we know is like being taken away over centuries, we realize that everything is connected. It's all connected. There's a relation there in everything that we're doing. Where do we get these thoughts from? To put a seed in the ground and add some water and do this. How did that come to be? The way we're educated to think that tobacco is a terrible thing. No, it's not a terrible thing. It's what we're doing to it is a terrible thing. Tobacco has been around for thousands of years, but what are we doing to it? We put chemicals in it. We make money on it. It was a trade item. We use that in a sacred way to make relations with other people. See? And now it's a big monetary thing, and there's these chemicals in there that make people sick. That's how much power it has. You misused it, and look what's happened. People are sick because of that. But that tobacco, the same tobacco, has been around for thousands and thousands of years, and we never got sick from it. What's wrong here? There's an awareness. There's pain there. There's suffering there. It's our relationship with this plant, or any plant that we have. So, it's just, it's a consciousness. It's a conscious effort to really sit down and take a look at what's going on. Then comes the joy, because you have this awareness, you have this consciousness. You can see different because you sat still and took the time to really look at what's happening. So that's kind of how I see it. There's a lot of different avenues you could look at. It's really inspiring. It's beautiful, and that's what I try to inspire with people. Just look at it. It's not the way you think it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I invite the attendees to share your gratitude in the chat as we come to our close, our wonderful, wonderful panel. I thank you all. I've learned so much. I have learned so much. My pad is full, my heart is fuller, and I am in deep gratitude. I'm going to invite Justice Yazzie to close us.
Nana. I'm happy to have spent the morning with you, and the discussion about land and healing is really it's pretty big, and we can talk about it for a lifetime, and we'll never understand still what earth and land and healing is all about. But at least what we experience, what we share, is what we learn. It gives enough energy to think about it. So some of the things that were said were very good. So when you think about land, you begin to say, how old is land? How old is the earth? 4.5 billion years old, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? We weren't there. But then you say, how old is human? Who was the first one to be here? And how did we get here? And so in law, we say, as Indian people, we follow the guideline, the spiritual guideline, the law of the holy people. And we still adhere to that. Those laws are immutable, cannot be changed. And that So now we're at a different stage with the earth. And we still, we say, we have laws to follow. And we talked about it today, how law controls land, how law controls medicine. But Indian people, we still have a different story. Just like we say, we still, we can, sometimes it's hard to translate what we know into English. And it's just as well that it be that way. Because there's some things that are so sacred that only the language can, give us that communication. No other language. So some of the questions made a lot of sense, good questions. And for example, when we talk about grieving, what is it? And we've been taught so well through the English mind, English language. It's something that you talk about sometimes with just negative energy. Too bad it happened. We can't do anything about it. But if we go back to what the Indian people have learned from the beginning, how they begin to speak, how they begin to use their mind, and the people who are gone used to say that the language came from the mother, the natural elements. They gave us the language. So and they know what grieving is about. They know what pain is about. They know how to bring back things into a good way. And Jasmyn kept talking about balance. Sometimes we just say balance because it just sounds good. Maybe it's well that we say in our language, what is balance? And give some examples. We asked the question, what have I been given? I mean, we're given those things, those teachings from nature. And the question is, what have we received? So today, the older we get, we become more, driven to share what we know with the young ones. What will they know? Is anybody, are we thinking about our children in the future? Or we just want to spend money and, enjoy life for today, for never mind tomorrow? I think what we have here is good, and we're open our mind. Some young person may say, I'm hurting, Elders, you're sitting here. What can you give me? What do we say? So we listen to each other as elders. Some elders may say to you, if there's pain, if there's grief, come face to face with the pain. Come face to face with the grieving, your grieving experience. They have names. Sometimes we do ceremonies. We don't just say, let things be restored in a good way. There's got to be more than that. We have to pray and say, who's causing the problem in the first place? Let's call the name of that, whatever energy it is. Let's call them right here and right now, and we don't need to be afraid. Those are the teachings from nature. They know that. They know about balance in that respect. But I think here, so I think there was much to be learned just by talking, just by asking questions, what we as Indigenous people, raise to each other. It's good. And so when we talk with each other, from tribe to tribe, we say things in our language. But one of the best things about we're here to exchange. We're here to say there's another way of looking at things, the way the whole world looks at. There's us, our experience, our intelligence, our wisdom, and some of you have really, done well, all of you, and I appreciate you. And so it's always good to walk away remembering something, remembering what can I walk, what do I walk away with from here? And I'll just say that, you know, we talk about land, our relationship with land. One of the things that we really need to pay attention to is what has the nature taught us. And if we're to be reminded, what are the responsibilities and duties that the holy people gave us when the world was created? Here it is. Don't come out of it. This is your life. This is your thought. This is your planning for the day. This is what you say. Your mind is saying, yes, there's pain, but your mind is saying that there is relief. You know, there's what you think, you know, that's most comforting is still there in your mind. Think, and it's up to us to teach our young ones, our young people in our community about those teachings. Thank you. I just want to. I'm just trying to reflect on what you all have said, and it's been a good morning. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jasmyn. Thank you, Anahkwet. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Shiwa. Thank you, Justice Yazi. And thank you to all of these attendees, all these good words here, appreciation. This has been recorded. So if you want to send it to somebody, it's on our Life Comes From It Facebook page now, and we'll share the link out. And really appreciate you. May everybody have a really blessed day and continue on in a good way with all the healing work you're doing.
Waiwanan, miigwech. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.